here. And hey, we got some people here. Oh my goodness. Um, Hopefully, we're not too delayed. Um, we're just going to give a minute or two for people to join up. And because I know there's usually a delay. Although I just got the notification that we're live. So hopefully people will be joining up.
Right.
Today is Tuesday, February 3rd. Yesterday was Groundhog Day. Did we
Don't
find
talk to
out
me
what
about a groundhog.
did he see a shadow, or are we fucked for the next 6 weeks?
Yeah, you
Yeah,
saw a
it's good.
shadow.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, I guess he did because I hear this weekend it's going to be brutally, brutally cold, dropping below zero at night. We're gonna have negative numbers here, so yeah, so it's gonna be chilly going into February. But usually when it's brutally cold, it usually brings a high pressure, which means less chance of snow crossing here in Orange County, New York. So tell me, Neil, what's going on? How you doing? How's everybody
The
else
best
doing, by the way?
the best revenge seems to be Greenland sending down their weather. That seems to be their response to all the nonsense is to rain on us their weather. I mean, this is brutal. This has been brutal, and I got to tell you, that's really sad because they're those people out in Minneapolis have been protesting now for an outside in negative degree weather. So
I tell you, those,
more
you know
power
what?
to them. That's all
Yeah,
I got to
exactly.
say.
That good for them. Um, I had a full day. Hey there, Marty. And who else do we have here? And Marcy? Hello, Marcy. Marcy Garno. Um, so yeah, we're still hopefully people I think people are learning that this is going to be our it's just so much easier. 8 o'clock is
Right.
just a better hour. 7 o'clock we're just like, oh shit, I gotta get ready. So we could talk
Well, you're,
about
I always end up with something going on Tuesday night now, and that, as much as I said, like, oh, I usually don't have much going on Tuesday night. All of a sudden, the last few weeks has been like Tuesday night has been really crazy for me. I've had something going on like every Tuesday night in January. It was like crazy, and now February is going to be the exact same way.
oh no.
I can't,
Oh well,
I just
you
can't
can't.
stop it.
That's okay. We can always get it. We're not gonna push it to 9, but we can always if worst comes to worst, I'll come out here and I'll rough it. I'll bring Marty on.
Not
Marty can come and chat with us.
9 is my bedtime. I can't do nine. I'm like, all right, bedtime. I got to get ready for bed. Got to
My
walk my
God,
dog and put myself to sleep. You
my
know.
no, not me. I'm like everybody knows I'm like a night owl. I do my best work in the middle of the night. I'll nap sometimes. Like I'll take a nap for a couple hours, like from like 9 to 11, and then I'm up. And then I'm up, and then my mind is working, and I start doing things. And that's the reason why I like a lot of this stuff when we go and post or I post some shorts or whatever. They're coming out in the middle of the night because I've napped already and I'm awake. So
No, I need to sleep. I need my sleep. It's horrible. I'm like by like 10:30 I'm out like a light. Forget about it. You
oh
know.
my god.
I can't do it. I can't stay up that late anymore. When I was a kid, it was great. I got yelled at. Go to bed at 9. Go to bed at 9. Like, and now that I'm an adult, it's like no, I don't want to stay up late. I just want to go to bed.
This is true. So what's going on in the town? Any new news on the ice facility that's going on in Chester?
I mean, so from what I understand, um, two of the facilities that they had in that they wanted to do, um, they've decided against moving forward with. One of which being in Minnesota. Um, two of the facilities that they wanted to do, they have already purchased and are now retrofitting. And as far as I know, we haven't heard anything about the one in Chester. In fact, I believe DHS released a statement to Congressman Pat Ryan, who is our congressman here in the Hudson Valley, basically telling him due to whatever they're not coming. You know that they're not going to give any information whatsoever. No, not that they're not coming. They're not going to
Okay.
give any information ever.
Got it.
However,
That's not so good.
however, all right. Apparently, the Republican, what do you want to call it, propaganda machine, Fox, was in Chester today. Okay, and they were at the local ShopRite shopping plaza, and they were asking people whether they were doing their sort of unofficial polling.
Mm.
So my thinking is based on the information I got as to what was going on, they're going to come. So some people were for it, some people were against it, just basically politics as usual. My feeling is what Fox is going to do is they're going to say they're only going to put out, right, those people
They're
that
not
were
going to
for
tell the
it,
truth.
and then say, see, Chester is overwhelmingly for it. That's going to be the next thing that you're going to see, and I know that was false. In fact, I know a majority of the people did say that they were against it, but they interviewed everybody, and there were some people that said they were for it, and I guarantee you they're going to put out, their unofficial poll that they interviewed 15 people, and most of them were for it, and then
Yeah.
they'll play like 3 clips of the people who were for it.
Right. And never mind the 50 clips that were like, no. Yeah. But that's not going to influence their decision, DHS's decision, one way or another, because they're going to make their decision. If they're going to do it, they're going to do it no matter what. It just seems to
I
be
think they're going to do it. I think now it's just a matter of selling it. So, right, they send Fox out. Fox then says, see, the town of Chester wants this thing, right? And they put out the propaganda machine. Trump moves forward with it, and the nation thinks that the town is for it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, we're not. We're not. But so
No.
it is interesting though, because I did a little search in the news recently. Apparently, Governor Hochul is advancing immigration reforms. She herself has also raised concerns about the ICE facility. So, and I don't know. Supposedly, the county executive, Newhouse, was pushing back, but I don't totally have confidence in that. But I did hear he was pushing back.
I heard that so I wanted to find out what bill these facilities were in, right? Because at the end of the day, no matter what government wants to do, they have to appropriate the money.
Yes.
Right? So I wanted to know what congressman, right, voted for concentration camps. And it was apparently in the big beautiful bill. That was another thing that was in the big beautiful bill.
Well, yeah, I think that wouldn't that have been part of the 170 billion that was given to Homeland Security?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they put in the bill concentration camps and then pushed that forward, and then took out, then we, as we heard recently, they stripped out that DHS can deport citizens out of the bill, right? Like Democrats were like, hey, why don't we just say for shits and giggles that ICE can't deport Americans, right? Like American citizens, right? Even though they can't, right? Like, I mean, at the end of the day, we're fucking citizens and we have constitutional rights. But no, apparently we don't have any more constitutional rights, because I guess Stephen Miller decided, hey, I'm going to push this idea that we can deport American citizens. So, he had that stripped from the bill, right? And then you had the 6 asshole Democrats vote for it, 2 of which were from New York State, Representative Tom Suozzi and Representative Guillen, both out in Long Island, they decide, sure, we can let you deport American citizens, and we would be happy to have concentration camps. And now, and now look where we are, right? They want to do this 2-week funding bill so that temperatures can go down and Democrats can then vote for this thing and not have to be held accountable, right, for voting for concentration camps for Americans, right?
No, don't lower that temperature. Call your representatives. Use the 5 calls app. If you're unfamiliar with that, you can find that in your Play, whether you're on Apple or Android. They're in the Play store. You'll find it. 5 calls.
What's frustrating about this, right, is the propaganda, right? So you hear, oh, Tom Homan went out to Minnesota, right? And you hear that, oh, they're going to be required to wear, cameras, and they're going to be required to do this, right? But none of that is actually happening, right?
Of course not.
Like this is what I find is hysterical. Okay. All right. We heard the same thing about Maine, right? Oh, Collins says, oh, ICE is gonna not do Operation Catch of the Day up in Maine, right? Okay. They just like they decided that that's not going to be the name of the operation, right? Like that's the stupidity of it, right? It's like,
They
okay,
changed the name, but we're still doing the same thing.
Operation Metro Surge. We're not going to do Operation Metro Surge anywhere, we're not going to do that anymore. We're gonna and people, right? But none of those things are happening, and they're doing exactly the same thing that they were doing before. They're still doing it, right? That's sort of the interesting part is, right? They're still doing it while Democrats and Republicans are out there saying, see, we made these meaningful steps. But they're not actually steps. They actually haven't done anything. They just told you they were going to do something and then turned around and didn't do it, right? But as long as the media continues to report that they're going to do it, right? It's a thing. All right? Just like your Doge check, right? Your Doge check, right? Like your Doge check became the tariff check, right? And everybody's still waiting for it, okay? And they're still talking about it. Trump was asked the other day about the tariff check, and his response is what check? I never promised anybody any money, right? Like, I mean,
oh my God, that is funny.
As long as they say they say something, and the media reports it, that makes it true, right?
True enough until never mind the fact that it hasn't actually happened.
I go, so it's recently come to right. I've been asked this question a lot lately, right? There's this overarching question, okay? What would you do about the immigration problem? Okay? And here's what I have to say to that. It's an interesting stance, right? The idea of who says it's a problem? Who says immigration is a problem in this country? Right? You are told immigration is a problem by a white supremacist billionaire, right? Mm-hmm. A white supremacist billionaire, any one of them, pick one, right? Because that's what they all are, right? Who rapes and murders little children, okay? Right? Rapes and murders little children, and they told you that the problem, okay, is immigrants.
Yeah.
Think of
nothing about that.
No, just think about the premise of that, right? Just the premise of the question, right? So you come to me and you say, what would you do about the immigration problem, right? What makes it a problem? Right? Like, in other words, right, it's this undefined problem where nobody really understands it. People make up whatever it is that they want to make up. They latch on to whatever lie they're being told, okay? But at the end of the day, the foundation is a lie.
Yeah,
And it falls like a house of cards every time you poke at it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, they're told that these people are freeloaders. They're getting, I don't know, Social Security. They're getting welfare. They're getting free food. They just come here and they just squat. Like, who's been picking your food for decades? Who's been wiping your tables off at the restaurant? Who's been mowing your lawn? Who's shoveling your snow in the last storm? That doesn't count?
But no, take a step back. Take a step back. See, what you just did right there, right, was accept the premise of their argument. Okay? You just accepted the premise of their argument, right? And what is the basis of that argument? That they are coming over here and taking our tax dollars, right? That, in other words, either they don't pay taxes or they take more than they contribute, right? That's the basis of that question. We know for a fact that that is incorrect premise, right?
Yes.
They contribute more to our economy and more in taxes than they take. In fact, okay? Again, another fact, right? We have now tripled the budget, right? Devoted towards immigrants.
Yes.
Okay, right? You've tripled the budget towards immigrants. So it's not about your tax dollars going towards immigrants, because now you're paying 3 times as much to keep them in cages rather than making them productive, right? And I don't mean to talk about them like they're not people, but they are people, right? But here's the thing, rather than maintain the productivity in a capitalist society of your immigrant community, right? What they've decided to do is incarcerate them and make them a cost center. Okay? So when you break down the premise of the argument that you made, okay, right? Like it falls apart. It falls apart. Okay? Again, it's a house of cards. You poke at it, it completely crumbles. Don't accept the premise of the argument that they're making to you.
Right. No, I agree with that.
Again, somebody comes at you and says, well, what would you do about the immigration problem? Again, you were told that by a
well, what's the problem?
Right? A racist white billionaire, okay? Right? A racist white billionaire who rapes and murders little children, okay? Told you that immigration is a problem, okay? I have a hard time accepting that premise, okay? I really have a hard time accepting that premise. I don't care how long people have told me that. I don't care how many decades it's been. We've been told this for decades. And again, it's all by the same racist white men. We now know, right? These racist white men who control everything we read, see, you name it, right? We're all involved in this shit. They were all involved. Right? They own all the newspapers. They own all the media. They control everything that you read, see, and consume.
Yeah, that is scary.
So again, the premise of the argument is wrong. Okay? But if I were to accept the premise of the argument that there is a problem with immigration, and I believe that there's a problem with the process of immigration, not actual immigration, right? And I think most people, when they look at it, they say, yeah, this is a really fucked up system that takes 25 years for somebody to become a citizen. That's really fucked up. And it can be revoked from them anytime at the whim of whatever whoever sits in the fucking White House.
And that's what's happening right now. That's what's happening. I mean, a lot of those undocumented that they're rounding up weren't undocumented before last year. They
they were documented.
That's what I'm saying.
They documented. Yeah. All of them are documented.
I'm talking about people with work permits and temporary protected status and asylum status. Trump stripped all that and said, "Oh, they're illegal." But they, so it's our problem. The problem is that we need reforms. We need to help get these people a path to citizenship. I don't see why that's such a bad thing. And it's interesting.
Here's
Let me
your
ask you
starting
this.
point. Oh, sorry.
No,
I just
let
want
me
to say
ask.
one thing.
Oh, go
One
ahead,
thing.
and then I got a question for you.
Yeah, the starting point should be for any type of thing like this should be dignity and humanity. And if your starting point is not dignity and humanity, okay, then we do not have political differences. Our differences aren't political. This isn't a left or right divide, okay? This is a moral issue. This becomes a difference in morals, okay? And and at that point in time, it becomes a different argument, right? Now you start seeing it becomes a completely different argument because now you're not arguing politics right and left, how best we spend our money and stuff like that. I'm willing to have those debates, but now you're discussing racism and misogyny
Yeah.
versus non-racism and non-misogyny, right?
Yeah.
So
Okay.
okay, I just wanted to say that.
No, no.
What was your question?
So, well,
Sorry.
what I was going to say is that, I did a little quick review of the day's news, and it looks like Governor Hochul is advancing immigration reforms. Do you know? I don't have a whole lot of details. I don't have any details. But do you know what those reforms might be?
I haven't heard. I know that she's considering like the Melt Act and some other legislation related to immigration. In other words, like immigration can't work with local law enforcement. I know that she's sort of working on that, um,
I think
which
there's
would
the
be interesting in our community, given the fact that the Orange County Jail serves as a nice detention facility, right? So there is that. And then I believe the Melt Act, which is that the unmasking, the idea that which was
I'm all for
passed
that.
in which was passed in the town of Chester. I'm not sure if the town of Chester was the first to pass the Melt Act in Orange County, but they did pass it in Orange County, and I believe it'll be on Monroe's agenda next for their next meeting as well. The Melt Act.
What about here, town of Wallkill?
It's interesting. Not for nothing. It's very interesting that you got Monroe and the town of Chester because they both have very young town supervisors.
Oh, really? That I did not know.
Yeah. And it's interesting that what we're seeing is from younger individuals we're seeing a lot better and more leadership.
Yeah.
They're really leading the way on this. The older people can't get out of their own fucking way, right? Because
Yeah.
everything is right. Nobody wants to upset the status quo. Nobody wants to be the ointment or whatever in the wheel.
The cog in the wheel or whatever the wheel, whatever
Whatever it
that
is. Yeah, the sticking point in the wheel.
don't-
Nobody wants to be that. I was that for many, many years. I know what that feels like. Nobody wants to be that, like
Yeah, but you
nobody wants
don't
to be
get
like me.
you don't get progress unless you are that squeaky wheel that's needing the grease, you'd have to be and we see
have to
that
have
across
ambition.
the board. Yes. And we're
Yes.
seeing that
You
from
need
the
am-
younger generation, not just here, right? But
Well,
yeah, go ahead.
like we're seeing we're seeing people like Mom Donnie, right? Mom Donnie, who whether you like him or don't like him, whatever, right? Like he's gotten rid of the standard Democrat Republican politics, right? Like this is what I said before, right? Democrats and Republicans have come into a room, okay, and they've agreed. Like they've pre-agreed what they're going to argue about, how the votes are going to, right? Everything is a show. It's staged, right? But a guy like Mamdani comes along and he's now saying there's a third way. There's a different way to do things. And this isn't like some bullshit like where you have, right, that that third way in Congress where they're like, you have the far right and then you have the right, which is like the corporatist Democrats, and their compromise is somewhere far to the right. Okay, which is what we see a lot of, right? And they're saying, well, we came to a compromise in the middle. That isn't the middle. Okay, 80% of the public has said these are the things that we want, and both Democrats and Republicans have said no. Okay, I've said millions of times there are more registered unaffiliated voters in almost every district than there are Democrats and Republicans. Okay? Because people are no longer identifying with either party. Okay? And Mamdani came out, and really what he did was he bucked the Democratic Party and he bucked the Republican Party, and he says, I'm going to show you a different way. Okay? Kat Abou-Ghazaleh did an interview, and I would highly recommend everybody go see that interview, right? It was really good. She basically said, listen, I'm willing to negotiate with anybody, but I'm not willing to give up my ground, okay, in order to start the negotiation, okay? And she says that's why Democrats look so weak all the time, okay, is the fact that they're, why would you trust a group, right, that going into negotiating something has already given up all their leverage, has already given up their high ground, has already given up what they want in order to come to essentially the middle, and that's where they start negotiation from, right? Right? The whole point of having a two-party system is that you come at it from the left, you come at it from the right, and you meet in the middle, right? That's, we used to have legislators that did that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we had that during the New Deal. That was like the whole New Deal, right? The New Deal was compromises to get us to that point. Okay? Yeah. And we don't have that anymore. Everything, right? It's all show. So they get into a room, they say, oh, this is what we're going to argue, this is what you're going to argue, and people will think that this is left and right. But it's really not. And I've been like, when people come at me with either Biden or the left, right, you're not attacking me. You're not attacking me. I don't, like, the Democratic Party was never my party. Okay? I ran under the party name, but that was never my party. I was never one of them people. I already knew. I already sat on the inside of those fucking rooms. I worked for Goldman Sachs. I knew exactly what was going on behind the scenes.
Oh my God.
To me, it was like, it just looks like a joke. And I think it's very performative, and I think people are starting to catch on to the fact that it's all performative.
Yeah, I hope so. I can tell you this whole experience over the last 5 or 6 months that we've been doing this podcast is I've learned so much from you and how things work, and it's
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. Yeah. Yeah, right? It's really surprising. And I think you're right here, but I think that it wasn't, it's been like that maybe for a while, but I think it really got turned up with the Citizens United, the Citizens United decision, which really allowed for big money to look. Everybody, these corporate investors, they own all of our politicians.
Denise, you're absolutely right. Citizens United put things on steroids and really kind of changed the dynamic.
Not that it wasn't already happening, but it just
really
made it easier.
when everything changed was honestly with Reagan, right? That's when you had, Barry Goldwater, Southern Strategy was put in place, right? Everybody thinks like we have this conversation about taxes, okay? but when Reagan first got into office, there were like I can't even remember, like 70 tax brackets. Okay, there were like a lot of tax brackets, right? You know, and what Reagan did, which was very very smart of him, right? And this was very very much Milton Friedman, okay, and in the economic strategy, okay. If your billionaires are taxed at one rate and your millionaires are taxed at another rate, and then you have your high net worth people that are taxed at another rate, like everybody has their own tax bracket. Okay. So everybody is in their own boat and
Right.
everybody's advocating for themselves. But the billionaires didn't want that. So what the billionaires did was is they paid politicians, right, to make people making like $150,000 or more, right, or even now $100,000, and put them in the same boat as billionaires. Okay, so what ends up happening is when you know, like here in New York, I mean, you know, the average income in New York City is over six figures. Okay,
Yeah. Yeah.
so
So
you're
how
now
can you afford to
putting
live
people
there?
who are middle class in New York City in the same boat as billionaires. Okay, so what's going to happen every time you talk about raising taxes? You know, they think you're talking about them because if you raise the billionaires' taxes, you're not going to create another tax bracket. You're going to just look. They feel that they're going to be included in that. Okay, because that that's what Reagan did, right? That's what Reagan did. And what we need to do is get people out of that thought process, just like Mamdani said. If you earn $1 billion or more, we're going to tax you at another 2%, right? You know, so he's trying to say it's not about you, it's about them. Okay, and people
I get.
have
Excuse
people
me.
have been misled by propaganda, just like we said, right? The foundation, billionaires, these white supremacist billionaires, right? Who have who rape and kill children, okay, have told you, right? This is a bad idea. So you naturally believe it's a bad idea because they've pumped it out on every station. They've pumped it in everything you consume.
And they control
You
all
know,
that
it's
media.
right. It would be like if your water, you know, if they decided to taint your water, you drink water every day. You don't even know you're consuming it,
Good point.
you know?
That's exactly how propaganda works, right? They just most people don't know that they're propagandized. We might be propagandized. We might be propaganda, but we're not.
No, but I've kind of said that, and that propaganda has gone on like a long time, right? I'll say it again because I don't know who's heard this, who hasn't heard it, but like remember, CBS, Viacom, NBC, right? Like Disney, right? Their largest revenue source is the Department of Defense.
Yes, you did say that. I remember when you said that
Okay,
last week.
I've said that a few different times. Okay, and I think I did say it last week. But right, like there's a reason for that. You know, like
That's very
why is the
interesting.
DoD spending money on media companies? Why are they, you know, like we hear about the FCC and how they're regulated, but why is the DoD, the DoD gives them money to ensure, right, that the message that is being given to the public, right, conforms to DoD standards. And if you get the a president in there, okay, then it could be much more biased than what it had been. A lot of, you got to remember, a lot of stories you got on print media before they ever went to news media. It's not like news media didn't have those stories, right? But it hit print media first, and it was only when it got attention that it hit actual news media, because at the end of the day, if DoD doesn't want something out, it doesn't get out.
Yeah, that's true. And that's
You know,
well, and now was this? Do you think this is because of the fairness doctrine being removed back during the Reagan era, or was that going on before?
I think it was born out of, believe it or not, I think it was actually born out of the Vietnam War. I think this has been going on a really long time. I think this started probably. I think this started kind of during Reagan's administration. If you want, I mean, probably not to the degree that it ramped up under Bush. I think when Bush went into Desert Storm, I think that's when it really got amped up. Was because right, the first Bush Desert Storm, what was the first thing that they did? They didn't allow the media to cover caskets that were coming back from into Dover. Right? I mean, like all these, right? It was they were paying the media not to report things that would be negative upon them. We didn't hear a lot of the negative stories until way later, right? Of what
Mm,
had been occurring during Desert Storm. We know a lot more now than we did. Okay? Same thing
that was
with
also,
9/11.
yeah,
Same thing
yeah.
with 9/11. Same thing with the Iraq War. Like, I mean, you know, you got bits and pieces of media regarding the Iraq War, okay, and the lead up to the Iraq War. There were pieces out there going, yeah, they don't have the WMD, it's not there, right? Like,
Yeah,
what
that
you had to
wasn't
look at,
widely, yeah, published. I
right?
remember.
You had to really look. Like, I mean, I think the Guardian published a piece, and there were a couple independent newspapers like ProPublica and stuff like that. The Nation, I think, reported, like, was one of the biggest ones that was reporting at that time. But mainstream media was all like gung ho. They were like, Don Rumsfeld was on TV like every day selling the war. So was Dick Cheney. I,
Yes,
I mean, people
yes.
people forget these things.
Changed the tax laws. I was waiting to get into the military, so I took a low-paying job, and my federal tax went from 14 to 28% overnight.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, that was because what what he eliminated a lot of the lower tax brackets too,
and he
right?
bumped them up
So
to
so
higher tax.
it was all about eliminating tax brackets. So then you go from that many to, I think he went from like 50, 60, something like that, to, like, I think we went to like 30, around 30. So it was like they were cut in half. So people on the lower end got bumped up, and the people on the higher end, right, got bumped down. They got rid of the
Way
high end
down.
tax brackets, and they got rid of the low end tax brackets.
That's
So
kind of like what they just did again recently. Like this is actually it was just raise it on the low people. I'm low and middle class. Just
yeah,
screw us some more.
right.
And yeah,
Well,
absolute pickpocketing.
it's right. It's again the philanthropy, right? So the idea being that they take more from us, so we need to be beholden more to them. It's right. It's creating slavery without. It's creating economic slavery, is what it is the best way to put it. You know,
Well,
we're
that's a
slaves, but we don't know
heartwarming
we're
thought.
slaves.
We're all slaves. Great. Let's see. So let's kind of move on a little bit because obviously one of the biggest things that's going on right now is our president here is pushing to nationalize election procedures. Ahead of the midterms. How convenient is that? Um, but let's see. It's sparking backlash from both parties. Do you think that that's for real, or that what do you think's gonna happen with
It's a
that?
joke. Listen, the Constitution is really clear.
Yeah,
I mean,
they're state
you
run.
can't get more plain text than the Constitution, which says that the states handle their own elections, right? Like, we are the United States of America. The Constitution's really clear on that. I personally think it's more of he wants the voter rolls for the Democratic states that he lost. I still believe, I know everybody keeps talking about martial law, and everybody keeps talking about we're not going to have another election. I
No,
disagree with
that's
that.
that. I
I
disagree.
do believe I do believe we're going to have another election. I personally believe, right, because he's already declared, like, BLM a terrorist organization. He's already declared, right, and he's ordered that Act Blue, right, which is a Democratic, fundraising tool. He's ordered that they be investigated, and I'm gonna put some money on the fact that in the next few months he'll designate that a terrorist organization and say and demand that Bondi shut it down, okay, and that everybody who has contributed through Act Blue, right, be investigated on aiding and abetting a terrorist organization, right? I mean, we've seen this happen, right? I mean, we're kind of seeing this live because he's done this with a couple of like pro-Palestinian uh, uh, charities, right, that provide humanitarian aid to Palestinians. He's done this with certain Muslim groups, you know. Um, we again, these are all test cases, okay,
Right.
right?
Right.
Trump is about like a little child. He likes to kind of tap the boundary and see how far he can get, right, before he goes full in. So just like we saw with the 4 journalists or 5 journalists now that were arrested, they were all people of color.
Yes. Yeah. That.
Okay, right? The people he killed before Renee Good and Preddy were minorities. Okay, the idea is to continue to test those bounds against white people. Okay, right? So, because I mean, you know, unfortunately, America is has this bent in racism
Yeah.
in there.
Yeah.
Okay, and it just goes to this is what is happening right now. This is the reality of our situation. So he's testing boundaries. He's going to keep poking that boundary, okay, until he gets some resistance.
Well, I think there is some resistance. I think there is some pushback. I mean, for sure, there's been a lot of fallout in this DOJ. A lot of lawyers have quit. We're seeing pushback within there. I mean, how are you going to investigate all these people if all your lawyers keep quitting? Or how are you going to take them to court?
Did you see what happened today? Did you
Yeah, what
see what
happened
happened
today?
today? Did you miss today? Right? DOJ, right, went to court, right? One of the DOJ lawyers went to court, okay? And and the judge like just asked her, just kind of like, listen, you guys have violated this many laws, right? And we asked you to come today and provide support as to why you didn't follow these laws, right? I mean, fairly simple, right? Like a good question, right? And the DOJ lawyer, like, I think she may have cried. She like begged the court, like no lie, she begged the court to throw her in jail.
Oh
To
shit!
throw her in jail. She said she sat there and she was like, please, please, please hold me in contempt, throw me in jail for 24 hours. I need the sleep. I cannot continue going like this. The DOJ sucks. My job sucks, right? Like, they are breaking the law every day. I can't keep up with the workload. Please, please throw me in jail so I can get 24 hours of sleep.
That is hilarious. Sad.
Like,
Well, sad at the same time.
Was begging the judge to throw her in jail so she can get 24 hours of sleep. Right?
Hands off.
That's where we are.
That is wow. And so there's that just falls in line with what I just said, that they're shedding lawyers and the only ones that they have are complete idiots. So, here's the thing. With regard to, as you know, they arrested the 4 or 5 journalists with regard to what happened in the church a couple weeks ago. And here's the thing that's being said. They really don't have any grounds. But the fact is they were arrested, and that's just raw meat for MAGA, right? Oh yeah, we're gonna get them, right? it'll be swept under the rug, and a few months down the road, they'll be quietly, probably dismissed, and everything it'll be all forgotten about because they keep hitting us with so much stuff on a daily basis that by the time this case actually comes up and it's dismissed and forgot, nobody even remember that it's even happening. And so that's the point of what they do. They get it up front. They get their news feed. They get their propaganda. They get the public's attention, and that's a point for them, I guess. And never mind, nobody's going to follow up on MAGA side. They don't really know. As far as they're concerned, they're already guilty.
It's an intimidation tactic, right? So like Don Lemon has money, right? So the idea is you think about somebody arresting you and having to go through a court proceeding. There's a reason why over 90, I think it's like 98% of all people who get arrested plea out. Okay? It's because it's so costly to go to trial.
That's true.
It's so costly to go to trial. Now, you could say what you want about Don Lemon, but now you have 3 other journalists who work for small media outlets. Okay, the media outlet now has to pay legal fees, right? Even if your case is dismissed, which it likely will be, you're still out the fees. It's not like you're not going to get
right. The lawyers get paid.
The lawyers get paid. So now the next time you want to run a story, right, you're going to have lawyers say, well, it's not worth getting sued. It's not worth that. Right? Because now all of a sudden the revenue that news outlet is going to get in from that story will pale in comparison, right? So the idea is, and you got to remember, a lot of this is also insurance, right? So your insurance will stop insuring you if you get sued too many times, so now as a business decision, now you have to make a business decision whether it's worthwhile to pursue or publish that story. Okay? I mean, it's really, really like you have no idea how these type of things lead to intimidation. There was just like Marty said. What I remember. Oh no, he said something else.
No, he's saying it right here. That's just
intimidation, right?
For the next round of people who don't fall in line with the treasonous dictatorship. Yeah.
Right.
But I want to just say this, that there is within the, resistance movement, there is a coalition of attorneys, and I'll try and get this information out there. I have to do a little research, but I think it's coming through Flair USA, who are willing to provide pro bono defense to help with people, but I'm not sure how that works with relation to big media outlets or medium outlets.
It's different, and not for nothing, right? We've seen, believe it or not, we've seen this playbook before, okay? And that's what I want people to understand. This isn't new for this just this administration. So during the Clinton administration, I'm going to go back. I'm going to give everybody a little history lesson, right? So back during Reagan, we had Iran-Contra, okay? Right?
Yes.
Iran-Contra was the idea that we were dealing in drugs in Compton, right? Making money off the drugs and then selling arms to Iran, right? I mean,
yes.
So, well, that never ended, okay? As much as everybody loves to say it ended with Reagan, it never ended. It actually just kept continuing, okay? And then when Clinton got caught up in that story, right? Because Clinton administration was doing the same thing, okay? They were working with the cartel, selling drugs in America, right? And it came out, this one guy did this big story. It came out that this guy came out with this story and he published it, and it was all true. He had facts. He had all his sources. He even went down to Mexico and he met with cartel leaders. Okay. It was published in his paper. It was verified. They published it. And then the DOJ came in and changed the story. right? They got another
Really?
news, right? Because they pay these news outlets. They then started, and then they went to the publication that published it, okay, and they threatened to sue them. Okay, and then there was like
Wow.
there's actually a movie out about it. Right, there is a movie. If you don't want to read the book, there actually is a movie about it. The guy ended up committing suicide. The journalist ended up committing suicide
Really?
at
That's
the end of the day because of the fact that he reported the truth, okay, and it got covered up because again it was a CIA thing, right? It was something the CIA was doing. It was black ops, and they wanted to continue it, and that story got in the way of them being able to continue this program that had been going on, right? Like forever. I mean, this is just a continuation of the same thing that happened during the Vietnam War, right? Con Air, right? Like it's been the same thing going on forever. And
wow.
it's not a conspiracy. Like there have been books about this, there have been stories about this. Like these aren't conspiracy theories. This is the reality of our government and how it operates. Okay?
Yeah.
And people have to understand, right? Just because the media has been pouring something down your throat for years and years and years, all right, doesn't make it true and doesn't mean you have to consume it as truth.
Wow. That is it. That is interesting. So yeah. So we've basically been propagandized for decades. That's the summary of that. Is that we've been propagandized
Believe
for
it or not,
decades.
you have. Yeah,
Yeah.
you have. Believe it or not, you have. And
And
yeah, sorry.
that's what this whole fake news this whole fake news thing that they've been doing for years is to make us not you don't know what to believe. You really don't know what to believe anymore. It's
Even if you really think about it, even like news people that you trust and stuff like that to give you, right? If you look at the story, you'll see bias. There's always going to be bias. I don't care who's telling you the story. There's always going to be bias because it's always from a point of view. Okay,
well, yeah.
and depending on if that person's point of view is positive or negative towards something, will skew the result that you're going to get.
Yeah.
You know,
There you go. And it's interesting because um a lot we can point a lot of this really started to ramp up with the advent of the 24-hour news network, the CNN. Because look, there's
bingo.
a lot of news out there, right? But there's just not enough to fill a 24-hour period. So what do you fill it up with? You fill it up with opinion pieces and talk shows and analysts. And so you get opinions and you don't get facts. And that's really, and then along comes Fox. It started with CNN. That got that was became a huge thing. Like nobody really watched CNN as much until the Persian Gulf War. And then we were watching. We could watch the bombs live on TV, and we could just watch it all day long. And so that comes along, and it just sort of laid the groundwork for Murdoch to bring in Fox News. And it's been opinion pieces and all day for the last 35 years. And look at where we are today.
You know what I blame it all on? You're going to laugh at this. I
Okay.
blame it all on the World Wrestling Federation, the WWE.
You know what? I see your point. I see where you're
Right?
going with this. I see it.
because
That
because
tracks.
you know if you look at the 80s, man, we watched that, we were like, oh my god, this is great, and we all thought it was a sport, and we all thought it was like real and everything like that. And then like the government came in and they said, well, if you're considered a sport, then we're going to have to do antitrust legislation on you like we do with the NFL and the MLB, right? Like they came in and said that. And then World Wrestling Federation said, but we're not a sport. We're just entertainment. It's not real. None of it's real. Remember that? None of it's
Yes.
real. And I feel that I feel like that's what equates to media today. if you're lucky, you can get a good story, out of something. What I generally like to do is I'll read a piece and then I'll try to find like three or four other pieces
Mm-hmm.
that give me more information about it. And then, a lot of times you can, given I have experience in government, you can kind of just be like, yeah, I know exactly what happened here, and 9 times out of 10, you'll be right,
Yeah.
you know?
Yep. But yeah, no, I totally get that. I know people who probably still today think that WWF is for real, like we did all along.
It's
Um,
WWE now. You can't say WWF because they got sued. Remember, it's the world. That's the World Wildlife Federation, who sued WWF for
really, that's
using.
I.
Yeah, and now it's WWE. So you could say World Wrestling Federation, and then you could say WWE, which is what I said before.
My God. But yeah, so yeah, we live in an alternative reality, and it's a shame. It's a shame that this is where we are, and it still goes on every day. And there's a I believe some people are waking up, but is it going to be enough to make a difference before before
I, I
we
think
become
I think
Russia?
I, I think
We already are Russia.
we already are, and I think the problem that you have is the propaganda is so ingrained, right? Like, I mean, you know, people can't accept, right, that we don't have, right? Like, I mean, just going back to what we said before, people can't accept that we don't have an actual immigration problem, right? Like, people can't accept that premise. The premise has to be we have an immigration problem, okay? We have a processing problem, and we have a pathway to citizenship problem. We don't have an actual immigration problem, okay? And I think that that's where, right, the confusion and everything else come in, and that becomes an issue, okay? Because you can't, people can't separate any of those things. When you start talking to people, and if you have a nice conversation with them and they're willing to address you without the racism, you can get there. But it's really, I mean, you're just bombarded every day with the immigration problem,
Oh yeah.
and so your thought process is, well, if it's that big of a problem, we have to do something. We have to do something now. And if that means putting people in cages, then we're going to put people in cages. I mean, it's fucking crazy. That to me is nuts. How you get from point A to point B on that is absolutely insane to me. You know?
Well, that's exactly what we're talking about there. I told you I had a conversation with my friend, and and she's just like so Neil sent me a TikTok today, which was very interesting. It's basically a guy who created I guess an 800 number, a toll-free number or something, and named it, ICE, reporting ICE, or report to ICE. And like a kindergarten teacher in a school here in New York, I don't know where, she sounded Long Island to me, what was looking to report, like a 5 and 6 year old kid wanted to report the kid's parents, because the kid is an American born here, but the parents, one's from Honduras and I think the other was from El Salvador. She went and looked up the parentage on this child because she was so triggered by that and wanted to have the parents deported. And she's coming from this position that because this kid is a brown kid and has immigrant parents, that they must automatically be be illegal, and so they have to go, and not thinking about that child and that impact, and not saying, hey, maybe there's something we can do to, if that is really the case, if that's really the case, which it wasn't in this case, maybe there's something we can do to help them get a path to citizenship. They live and work in the area. They spend their money in the region, right? Think about it, because these people, they make money and then they spend it in their communities. The money goes right back into the community, and they don't. Nobody sees it that way because they have been so propagandized to believe that not having the right paperwork means you're right in line with like a murderer, and you belong in a full-time prison, and you should be shipped to Sakat where you will spend the rest of your life. Like how we got to that, to thinking that way, is
It
is just
it
disturbing to me.
it to me, what they're making is an ends justify the means argument. Okay, and right, let's take that woman. She looked in that kid's file and then utilized the information she obtained from that file, right, to try and report, okay, on the parents of that child. Here's the thing: there are confidentiality laws in place here in New York, right? Like, your kid's file is your kid's file, okay? No one else can see that file, okay? The fact that a teacher took that file, read through that file, and then tried to use that file against the parents, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Right? She violated the law. She broke the law, right? And her thing is, oh well, I'm doing what's right. Okay, right? That's the mentality, is, well, the ends justify the means. I looked at this kid's file and therefore I found out X, Y, and Z information, and I decided to act on that information, even though what I did was illegal.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we're seeing, right? Oh, ICE can go into anybody's home. They can violate their Fourth Amendment rights, right, and go into people's homes, right, because the ends justify the means. We can put people in internment camps, right, because the ends justify the means. The entire argument that is being made is the ends justify the means.
Yeah.
And what kind of, like, I just have to ask, what kind of society are we going to end up being then? Right?
It's a
If you're
very good
willing to
question.
violate all these laws, you're willing to violate all these laws, right? So you can lock up some immigrants. Okay? You're not saving any money, right? Like, we've already
No.
determined, you're not saving any money, right? You're not, like, you're going to spend all this money to lock up immigrants for what purpose? Right?
Well,
Because the ends justify the means, right? Like, it makes no sense. You are going after the wrong people. Okay?
yes. Oh
The
my God,
rapist,
yes.
you have a white supremacist rapist, okay, who kills children, rapes and kills children, okay, telling you this because they don't want you to turn your sights on them. That's it.
There it
Okay?
is.
And if you are so racist that you can't see through your racism to realize that the real bad guys are not below you but are above you,
Way above.
okay? Right? That are making the billions of dollars in this country, I don't know if there's hope for you.
Yeah.
Again, we don't have a political difference. We have a difference in morality.
There we are. So we're getting to, we're at the end
No,
here.
we're
We
at the
usually
end.
just go.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. This has been a good talk. But it's funny because you're going on to the a topic that I think we should cover in an episode. Maybe this weekend I'm gonna do a deep dive into that. But in the meantime, we covered a lot of things. I think you should be we should all be working within our communities, getting talk with each other, talk with each other about about these conversations. Come from a position, see what people's opinions are, and and come out and try to do things for your community, because more and more we're going to need to really focus on community and working with our neighbors, get involved in clothing drives and food drives, helping the elderly in your neighborhood, checking on them, making sure they're okay. We just had a massive snowstorm last week. See if you can get involved, get to know the people in your community, because that is so important. And we're going to need that going forward. And in the meantime, if you haven't already, please like, share, and subscribe. We goes a long way. We're trying to build our channel. We're kind of taking on more national stuff than we usually do, but we still are a local podcast, because everything that we've spoken about does impact us here at home. So definitely keep that in mind. And again, we'll be here next Tuesday for our live stream, or you could always just watch it afterwards. But 8 o'clock, if you've got some topics you wanted us to go over, definitely drop a line in the comments, let us know. And in the meantime, watch for our uploads on our recorded stuff as well. So again, we love you guys. We appreciate your taking the time to listen to us ramble on for an hour, and we will see you soon. All right. Any final
Peace
words,
out.
Neil? Anything you want to add?
No. Peace
No,
out.
I think. All
Enjoy.
right. We'll see you soon. Take care.